a better understanding of the world around you, for a greater knowledge of the world you live in, Wolf and Dessauer in downtown Fort Wayne and downtown Huntington brings the Screen News Digest, a chapter of living history, into your classroom.
Cape Canaveral, August 1962. The beginning of a distant journey for Mariner 2, thrust into the heavens by a mighty Atlas Agena rocket. Its work done, the Atlas drops away, and Mariner 2 starts on its way to a celestial rendezvous with the planet Venus, 36 million miles away. 115 miles above the Earth, Mariner 2 parks in space for 15 minutes. Then the Agena rocket comes alive, and the space vehicle is given a final push at 27,500 miles an hour. "30 minutes after launch, Mariner 2 is on its own, an instrument-crammed messenger in space. As it tumbles through the heavens, it spreads its solar panels, the wings covered with sunshine batteries, which power the scientific equipment aboard. For 110 days, Mariner 2 speaks from space in a jumble of shrill sounds that are stored, translated, and studied as scientists probe the... The pilot can change orbit and even head for the moon. On re-entry, the cockpit shield falls away, and the astronaut, using his upturned wingtips as rudders, most revolutionary, most advanced of all American spacecraft is the Apollo, the vehicle that will attempt to put this country's first men on the moon. Almost 9 million pounds of thrust will be needed to propel the mother ship and the lunar landing capsule, now changing position in mid-flight, on their 250,000-mile journey. 3 men will ride the mother ship, called the command capsule, and at a speed of 18,000 miles an hour, the distance between the Earth and the moon can be covered in some 15 hours. On reaching the moon, the spacecraft goes into a 100-mile-high orbit. 2 men will make the landing, while the 3rd astronaut remains in the command capsule. The trail-blazing descent to the moon is made by a combination of manual control and automatic systems. The lunar capsule will be able to maneuver much like a helicopter. It will hover in a fixed position if necessary, and it will move left or right so that the crew can select the exact point of landing. Once landed, before any other action, the men will prepare all systems for takeoff. Once this has been done, the great adventure can begin. The lunar pioneers will be instructed by the 3rd member in the mother ship and by information transmitted from Earth. Photographs and samples of the moon's surface will be obtained, and apparatus for the continued transmission of scientific data back to Earth will be left behind. The 2 men will fire the launching engine at a precisely determined instant to make certain capsule and mother ship meet in lunar orbit. If all goes well, the 2 vehicles will dock in space, and the moon explorers will transfer back into the command capsule. The smaller capsule will probably be left in orbit around the moon to save weight on the return trip. Following a mid-course correction, and just before entering the Earth's atmosphere, the astronaut's capsule, with the 3 men inside, will separate from the command spacecraft and swing into its re-entry attitude. As the capsule streaks through the atmosphere, its heat shield turns fiery red, then white hot. At 50,000 feet, a small parachute helps break the descent. Then 3 giant parachutes open, and much like the Project Mercury recovery, gently lower the capsule back to Earth, probably on land rather than sea, ending the dream of the centuries come true, a journey to the moon.
New Delhi, June 25th, 1954. A turning point in Asian history.
2个9亿6千万人民的和平友好。
May the friendship between China and India develop with each passing day. May the unity of the peoples of all Asian countries become daily closer. May the peace of the world become more consolidated from day to day.
团结一点比一点紧密。
All India rejoices on this August day in 1947. 40 years of strife and struggle are ended. Independence from England is won, and free men celebrate their freedom. First Prime Minister of the new India is Pandit Nehru, and it is he who must lead this teeming country, 1/3 the size of the United States, with a population almost 2.5 times as great. The days ahead will not and cannot be easy, but a proud people find strength, purpose, resolve in the freedom long sought and now won. At the start, India has much in common with the United States, and Pandit Nehru is warmly welcomed by President Eisenhower, who promises financial aid and economic support in India's struggle to raise its living standards. The two nations have similar constitutions. Each includes a Bill of Rights, and together they seem natural allies. But Pandit Nehru and his country are careful to make friends with communist powers as well as free world nations. He travels and is at home on either side of the Iron Curtain. To all who will listen, Nehru explains the policy of his government and his people as non-alignment, meaning, the Indian leader says, live and let live. Of course, he adds, this does not include people who misbehave. We want to be free of any involvement in the Cold War between East and West. We preach only the gospel of peaceful coexistence. India's people hear and follow India's neutralist policy. They welcome Premier Zhou Enlai of Red China, who speaks too of the new India and the new China, 1 billion Asians living together in peace and harmony. As Zhou Enlai rides through the streets of New Delhi, the chant rings out, Indians and Chinese are brothers. In the spirit of seeming goodwill and mutual respect, Premier Zhou Enlai speaks of peace for China, India, all Asia.
The peace and friendship of the 960 million people of China and India constitute an important factor in maintaining peace of Asia and of the world.
The sound of red Chinese guns speaks louder than Zhou Enlai's words. Tibet is conquered in 1951, and refugees by the thousands stream into India, seeking refuge, hoping that Nehru and his people will come to their aid. But they do not. In Tibet in 1951, might makes right, and an ancient people pass into human bondage. In the decade of the 1950s, Nehru continues to follow the path of neutralism, insisting that India is seeking to absorb the best of the communist and Western worlds without becoming indebted, without having to be allied with either one. India will go it alone. But the people of India do not lose their respect for America. And when President Eisenhower visits the country in 1959, he is swallowed up by hundreds of thousands of Indians, tossing their flowers, shouting their affection for the president and the country he represents. In 1961, India moves against the tiny Portuguese colony of Goa on its west coast, sending its troops to occupy an area some 40 miles square with a population of 500,000 persons. India and Nehru are called aggressors. These charges are brushed aside by the Indian Prime Minister. Defense Minister Krishna Menon speaks only of a new kind of peace policy for Asia.
From now on, we should hope to see in Asia the vindication of what has been called the collective peace system. That is to say, peace alliances in place of military alliances.
Again, in 1962, Red China drowns out words of peace with actions of war. On the northeast and northwest borders between China and India, in the mountainous areas long claimed by both nations, the communist warriors mount an offensive against India. The invaders strike without warning. The Indian troops on the border are put to rout as the Chinese drive deeper and deeper. Defense Minister Krishna Menon comes under attack. Indian soldiers are fighting with inferior weapons, or no weapons at all. For Krishna Menon, close friend, staunch supporter of Pandit Nehru, this is the end. The people of the embattled nation, content to follow their leaders for 15 years, now rally to show the government, to show Pandit Nehru how they feel and how they think the government should act to preserve their freedom, their independence. As the crisis and the danger deepen, as reinforcements are rushed to the front, India seeks assistance from the free and communist worlds. In the mountains, supply lines are long and thin. Jeeps must struggle for 18 hours to travel 70 miles. And to add to the bleak picture, Russia, in response to India's plea for help, denounces Nehru's border claims and urges him to accept Red China's terms. For a neutralist nation, this is its darkest hour. But America and the free world do not turn their backs on embattled India. 60 United States planes fly $5 million worth of supplies to New Delhi, and the sorely needed equipment is then quickly shuttled to the battle zone. We are not seeking a new ally, says an American official. We are helping a friend whose house is being burglarized. Assistant American Secretary of State Averell Harriman leads a fact-finding expedition to New Delhi to explore further, closer ties. Red China has by now proclaimed a ceasefire and promised a pullback. But neither action has changed Pandit Nehru's awareness of the new role India must play in the world of today and tomorrow. As giant U.S. tanker planes arrive in the Indian capital, the people, too, have come to a deeper appreciation of American friendship, chanting a new slogan, "Americans are our brothers, death to the Chinese." Neutralism seems forgotten now. A painful lesson has been learned at a grim cost. Pandit Nehru has found that in a shrinking world, no nation is or ever can be again an island unto itself.
To widen your horizons, to stimulate your interest in things going on about you, Wolf and Dessauer, one of America's great department stores, has presented the Screen News Digest as a public service.